So cool. Awesome. So on Facebook, if you'd like to share, it will appear first in my wall and then in the warriors4elements wall. Just takes some minutes to do the
Do I have to do
invitation.
something in Facebook to also announce it?
If you wish to share, then you can share it from either from my personal wall or from the warriors. You should be able to see it in my wall now, like in some seconds.
Let me look for it.
Up, there it goes. It's not, yeah, it's still in the process. Yeah, now you should be able to see it from my wall and also now from the warriors. So you can opt whatever feels better.
That is in the email, right? Because I'm yeah. Okay, perfect. I see ourselves there. Share now, public.
Exactly. Wonderful. So like your friends can also watch us live.
Yeah. Let's see which friends. Some of them are completely sleeping now, but
well, that's a good thing that it remains on the wall, so they can see it afterwards.
perfect.
So thank you for coming, first of all, Hugo. It's really nice to have you here today and hear a little bit more about your initiative and yourself. But before we go there, I want to start from the background. Tell me a bit more what you have behind you. And through the interview, we'll slowly get to know exactly how you feel, you think, and who are you in the end.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here and for holding this space together. This background is well, it's kind of funny. I had the shining lights before. I did a painting for my wife like this, and then I got COVID, and COVID taught me something really interesting, which is that we are all part of the same energy. And I hold that background for months, and I didn't know what to put. But when I was in fever with COVID, I realized that one word came to my mind and to my spirit, which was gratitude. So every time that I was suffering, because I got it very strong, so I was thinking about gratitude and being graceful with life, and also accepting that this virus is part of our living context, you know. And now he was, or she was, getting into my body, so I needed to welcome as well. So to ask him to not to harm my body more than necessary. And when I was in fever, I got this image of like everything was just part of the same thing, of the same energy, almost like bubbles of light everywhere. And that's the image that I have there. So it is the planet, and that it is having like an explosion of energy from the inside out. And that was a nice reminder that we all belong to the same.
I love it.
Then I knew that that was the thing that I wanted to do, and I saw part of these tectonic plates, and yes, well, this is what it's all about. It might be like a re-engineering of the process when we started all together.
I love it. I love it, and I think, funnily enough, it connects a lot with an image of the power of the decision that has been coming lately to me. It had the same energy, this core that expands from within, right? Beautiful.
Yeah. And when you think about auras and when you think about all your self energy, it is always the same image. But what I didn't realize is that when you see it in a bigger scale, it's exactly just one picture. And then you can get into the texture of the energy, and you will see it materialize or tangible in a way of bodies and different communities inside yourself. So everything is connected, I think.
Yes, absolutely, and it's interesting with the moments that we get to experience that, right? Even though we know it intellectually, there is those moments of experiencing it. So let me take you a little bit into the journey in one question that I love doing, and it feels like one of the most easier questions, but sometimes it's not. And that is of who is Hugo right now? Who is this person that is in front of me and we're sharing this space together? How do you identify yourself?
Well, first of all, I'm human.
Are you sure?
Well, at least this is what my body says. And when I don't have too many mirrors, but when sometimes I see myself in a screen, I say, oh, that's me actually. And I'm human. I think I'm alive. That's also very important to say, because usually we take that for granted. And from there, it comes a person. So of course, as any human, someone that makes lots of mistakes and that doesn't get it right, but that is trying to live a life everyday basis. So I think myself, as I would like to see myself, is just as a part of a family. And before I was part of my family as a kid, and now I have 3 kids and my wife, and I've been doing my best to be a nice example for them, because this is what I got, and that what actually gave me lots of gravity. So I saw my parents just changing the world everyday basis, whether they did it or not. They did their part, or they've been doing their part in what their life that they're living. And I realized that you cannot say to your kids what you want them to be, but you cannot, you can just be the example that you want them to be. So this is what I'm trying to be, not what I am, of course, but this is what I'm trying to be. So so I see myself as a father and as a part of different types of families.
I love that. How, if let's say that you will be able to paint that picture for your children to see of how you believe the world, that it would be a beautiful place, right? I feel that we're all creating what we believe it's the best place to be. Our parents did the same from my point of view. Just our generation has a different image of what that good life looks like, right? So from your eyes, from your point of view, how is that future? How is that bright future of our planet? How does it look like?
Well, I have those visions before, and I think it is very abundant, you know, like it is bright and abundant, and I cannot go for something less than that. Like when I think about myself, my kids, I don't buy this idea of scarcity, and I don't get these possibilities that we all need to go to war and to kill each other. I've been traveling all over the world, and I've seen so many solutions, so many people doing the right things, so many people pushing hard. And the fact that they are not showcased by the media doesn't mean that it is not happening. So it's something that you cannot hide anymore. And I have the feeling that this is real because I experience it. So I'm not talking from theory or from studying books, or I've been traveling. So for example, in 2007, 6, 7, we quitted our like multinational jobs as a couple, and we decided that we wanted to create the future of being creative, traveling together, having time as a couple, as a family, and adventures. And of course, the jobs are not like this, so we needed to put all our means into doing it. But after this 1.5 years of traveling all over Latin America, we realized that all the solutions were there. So how can you think differently when you know? I mean, if you stay in your place, if you stay isolated, if you don't want to realize it, then that's a different story. But if you go to where the ecosystems are alive, if you go and experience how nature is connected, then it should be like this. And this is what triggers my mind. Like I spent about 5 years living in nature, in isolation in Yucatan. And then that was the time when I realized that the sea was alive. It was breathing and it was changing, like kind of breathing a state of almost of humor. It depends on many things. So when I said that, okay, so I get it. We're alive. We are part of something that is bigger than ourselves, that is also alive, maybe beyond our understanding. But the future has to be a healthy ecosystem for each and every one of us, and not just humans, but all the species.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel you a lot with the realizations that you get once you're more embedded, more infused in nature. Uh, for me, it was almost the same. I remember last year at some point, I was seeing everybody trying to find solutions about COVID and about the problems of climate, all the issues that we like to list and try to find solutions for. And then I was just looking around me in nature. I'm like, we do have a model that is resilient and has been working for billions of years. What are we searching for? It's like, it was kind of like, we have an example that is working.
Yeah.
So I would like to guide you there. I saw that you're working a lot with biomimicry, and that I kind of feel, and then correct me if that's not the direction that you're taking, but I kind of feel that the ideas and the inspiration, the way almost like the fabric behind nature, has been infused also in the seven vortexes and in everything, in your art and everything that you do. It feels like that. Tell me a little bit more about how this integration happened. How do you approach nature through your projects that you're doing or the art that you're doing? How is that connection there?
So thank you for that question. It's usually not so relevant because they are asking more about the outcomes of that. So I think the process has been very deep. It was a conscious process of getting myself into nature. Well, when I learned about biomimicry at that time, they were all talking about chemistry and materials and micro nanostructures. So they really wanted to create technologies and products. And since I come from Mexico and Colombia, then when I was, we're studying together for 2 years, 4 different disciplines, so engineers, designers, biologists, and business. And I was bringing all these disruptive social innovation idea of that we need to connect with everything. And for science, that is quite a complex issue because they are so specialized. But I was also bringing my own culture, and in my cultures, we have a lot of indigenous wisdom and a wisdom that I've been respecting all my life, not just because they are indigenous, but because they are locals and because they are wise people. So one of the advices of my father when we started this big trip was, you gotta listen to the earth. You gotta listen what the elders are saying, because this is what will guide your path. And otherwise you cannot change things because you risk to reinvent the wheel. And most of the things that you are trying to do, they've been already done like many generations before and many years ago. So don't try to think that you are so unique. And then when I got into biomimicry, something that I loved was this idea of quiet your cleverness. So I thought in the beginning that it was just about the science, but every session we're getting deeper into quiet your cleverness and listen and stay there and listen and stay there and listen deeply and more minutes and contemplate and realize how you are part of all these different ecosystems. So whether we were in the desert or in the mountains or in the intertidal zones, we're always in deep connection with nature until I found these miracles all over the place. So I think when you are amazed about this, like you are in awe, as we like to say now, then you just need to express yourself, and it is not anything more than feeling grateful for being alive and for being part of such a fabric. So honestly, for me, it is of course about biomimicry in the way that this is a concept that we need to push now, and it has the right basis for leading regeneration, but it is about life, it is about nature. So whether it's a concept or not, I'm not attached to any concept. I'm really attached to what I am and what my life is. And I got this story that it was about bioluminescence. So I realized that bioluminescence was bringing light from the darkness. And studying biomimicry strategies, I got into the Hawaiian bobtail squid. So the Hawaiian bobtail squid, it lives in the shallow sea, so it is not so deep. So it has an organ that brings light, and it erases its shadow whenever there is full moon, because otherwise it couldn't work in camouflage, right? The predators will be tracking the bobtail. And then I said, well, this is just so amazing. So how can we think that we have better technologies than that one, right? Like you see superheroes and all these Marvel stories, and then you see nature, and it's already there without any mining behind. And I said, what is happening there? And then I realized that it was about population density in the organ. So it was releasing the bacteria during the day, and it was having the right population density during the night. So it is all about synchronizing with the cycles of the context, and it's all together, right? And then inside you have this bacteria that is called Vibrio fischeri, and Vibrio fischeri is the bioluminescent bacteria, and together they have a decision-making process to create light that is called quorum sensing. So when I was seeing democracy in Mexico, I said, well, this is not working. And then you see it in the United States, and you see it in Europe, and it is not working at all. So I say, who would have those kind of answers of how to take better decisions? And then bacteria happens to be one of these first populators in the planet. And they've been living for a while already around us. And we are more than 90% bacteria. And then they have this intra-species communication, but they also have interspecies communication. And it happens through a universal communication molecule. So it was just mind-blowing, you know, like, why are we so primitive? Like everyone else seems to be knowing their own niche. So how are we going to understand what our niche is? We need to add value. So this bacteria and the bobtail squid, they are having a symbiotic relationship, and that just blew my mind. And since then, I'm really stick with the Vibrio fischeri idea, and I'm just trying to share these stories from nature. And I love this analogy of bringing light from the darkness. And I see this like different times in humanity that we have bring art as a way of expressing, and I'm a big fan of Picasso since I was a kid, and I love the idea that he wanted to shift perspective of humanity on our own perspective, and that's why he went like deeper into cubism. But then when I saw about nature, I said, well, this might be a right way to use the art towards this direction. So how can we actually shift our perspective and understand that we are part of something bigger? And it's not a new concept, as it is not biomimicry, but sometimes it feels that you need to repeat it and to put it into a way that it is useful for the present time, because we tend to forget. And in all my pieces, so I had these like meetings with my family and wife, just walking kilometers on the beach and on the water. And we realized that we needed to do two things, like to use the force of two things in the world: business and technology. So this is what we're trying to do. To specifically myself, I'm trying to build from living systems patterns technology that actually creates conditions conducive to life. And this is where biomimicry becomes very, very relevant, because it's a, let's say, design thinking process. So when you use it, then you feel that you are closer. So let's say in 7 Vortex, for example, that is, now we have more than 10,000 curations on inside, and there are local narratives. I like to imagine back then, when it didn't exist, like we need a system that allows us to connect information and knowledge around nature. So the function will be knowledge transfer, and it has to be something that allows local people without scientific background and the science to connect with each other. And because we need it, we cannot see the plants just as one thing, but as an interconnected being that actually is adding value to every place. Like for example, we have these wind turbines that doesn't add any value, and then you have the aspen trees that they have the leaves that sometimes they are on the wind, sometimes they are solar panels, and there are so many things to learn. I just believe that the art should be playing this role, and I was trying to follow the bio art trend, and I realized that this bio art it's something new happening, but at the same time has been happening for a while, like not just Picasso but also Da Vinci, Kandinsky. There are so many artists that have been there that I say, well, this feels like a powerful vein of art. So I really want to get into this vein and express myself. So now I'm mixing more, let's say, totems and spiritual visions with expression. So this is where I am.
I love it. I love the direction that you're taking, and also the connection to the current situation, which I feel is like so important to see what is possible and know where we are and try to make this bridge together. So I love that you're referring into business and technology, because I feel that exactly the same. Like, what if, as you're saying, except of saying technology as one bucket and business as one bucket and life as one bucket and personal life as another bucket, what if all of them somehow were supporting each other, right? Like, that's what nature does. Mm-hmm. And I feel that the biggest issues that we are running into is because we think they're separate and we are creating separate solutions that affect something else negatively in the end. Mm-hmm. So is that the direction that the Seven Vortex is taking? Like, how do you see the Seven Vortex? What is its place? What is its role? What would you like that to enable?
So there are two things. The first one is that this new generation of enterprise, it is biomimicry based. So I realized that by being a biomimic from the second generation globally, that we didn't have examples of biomimicry on its own. We're all doing workshops and doing TED Talks, but not actually delivering. So coming from business, I say execution means everything. So whether you execute it or you just keep talking. So I executed and I used it. So now, let's say, by using the living systems patterns, so life principles, how we call it in biomimicry, and embedded in technology and putting humanity in there, I believe that this is a living art piece that is gonna just keep growing, organically. So there is a self-emergence there. There are no rules for what you're putting there, and let's see where it goes. And so I'm trying to embed I'm trying to represent the biomimicry movement in a way, because I felt responsible on my own self. I'm not saying that what I'm doing is right for everyone in biomimicry, but just that I wanted to represent that, and how we can create technology with a different objective, right? Intention is everything in art, and we haven't really understood that in technology or in business. And in the beginning, I was doing consulting for big companies to make them sustainable. And I say it's gonna be very tough because they're about maximization. So what if we can just create a business which intention is create conditions conducive to life, and just let's do it. And then the second part, it is about the values. So I wanted Seven Vortex to be a family-owned business that represents the values of my family. And yeah, I want my kids to feel proud. That doesn't mean that they need to take it over, but what if we can create a multi-generational business? So being inspired from monarch butterflies, that they have these multi-generational cycles going from Mexico to Canada, and they don't share any present moment just to know about the next step, although they have these multi-generational cycles, but they are not symmetric. So you have 2 or 3 generations from Mexico to Canada and one super generation coming down. So I say, what if I realize that the change that I'm proposing, I'm not going to see the result because my time frame is very little. So I need to spend my time with my family and being myself, so the kids, they can grow, and it's about the next generation. But at the same time, I'm just putting another step or another stone, as we want to see it, for the next one that is coming, and it will have a better place to be. So somehow I also learn about sacrificial layers, and I like the idea. It is not about sacrificing yourself, but it is really about understanding your place also over time. So if you want to make a change, and you just need to be it, and you will see if you can make it or not. But that is not the objective. The objective is to represent that every day.
I love that. I love that you are entering onboarding and the idea of the multi-generational impact, as I like to call it, because we have tend to minimize the cycles into one person's life, which is a tiny cycle in the end. I was reading about the lunar eclipse that will happen in a few days, and that's happening every 600 years. And I'm like, wow, that's a much bigger cycle, for example, still a cycle. So a lot of you're onboarding on that. From my perspective, I also love to start onboarding in the idea of multi-organism, meaning many organisms that are operating as individuals, but at the same time have connections that hold them together so they become more resilient, as it's happening in a forest, for example. It's not one tree alone that wouldn't exist on its own. And I love to onboard on that. But as we are going towards the end, I would like to take you into two questions that are very specific, and I'd love to know about everybody that I'm interviewing. And one is, what do you feel that is the unique gift that Hugo is bringing into this lifetime and into this planet? And the second is, like, what would you need right now, you personally or as an initiative, to grow further, to grow to your next step, to go beyond?
My gift, I don't know, it might be my sensitivity, so like my feminine, masculine side, and being able to express that I'm also feminine as an energy. And it seems to be important because it is not as normal as I would have thought. In my family, that was normal, but it doesn't seem to be very normal. So I think I can bridge in between different things. And I would say that could be one. And the second question was about what do I need? So honestly, I don't need anything right now. I'm really happy. So I'm happy of helping others from an egocentric way that makes me happy. So that's fine. If I think about the business, then I'm in this stage where the technology is there, everything is in place. They were asking first for proof of concepts, prototypes, and I have far more than that. I'm just in the need of a bigger understanding and really creating this critical connection. So the people that is getting closer to me is in a similar mindset, that it is not about ownership or just maximization, but it's really about how, with the tools that we have now, we can create this abundance that we need, and how can we connect the information so we take care of our planet. So one of the latest projects that I'm working is called Metabolic Earth. And I would like everyone, like every kid, to understand how the metabolism of our planet works so we can take better care of.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful to be able to get to know you a little bit better. Just before I close the Facebook Live, I would just like to see if there's anything else that you would like to express, if there's anything else that wants to be expressed.
Yeah, like let's do not forget to enjoy, to party, to dance, like I'm really tired of this suffering everywhere, and we are such a happy energy that I wish we won't forget that.
That's a very good reminder. Thank you so much. Stay in our Zoom call. I will just close the Facebook
Thank
Live.
you. Well, thank you to everyone.
Oh, there we go. I think we're offline.